Well, hello, this is Peter Combs from Bidamount.com and P.O. Combs Asian Art in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And today is Friday, August 14th, 2020. And this, of course, is our weekly video. We'll look back at last week's eBay auction results, see what happened over in Catawiki, and bring you up to date on some auctions that have finished up and some new ones that have appeared on the global member pages in the last week. As I said a couple of weeks ago, usually the month of August is pretty quiet because so many people in Europe are on vacation. And to expect some auctions to start popping up as we get closer and closer to September. And I guess with all that's going on in the world, they don't want to get behind over there. So new auctions are starting to appear already for September and late August. A couple of late sudden auctions sort of just popped up over the weekend. And we've updated the global pages today. A couple of things I wanted to run through. One of the things on the global pages, we've updated the auction results page and put in some of the items that have closed out in the last week or two. There's quite a lot of material on here. If you're ever wondering what the prices have been on things in the past, you can usually pick up quite a bit of information by scrolling through there. We've also updated the report card page. I wanted to mention something. If you use the report card page, check it often, because what we do is we change those grades based on what we're seeing as a trend. And a number of auction companies that we had given sort of mediocre, ratings to C minuses, Ds, that kind of thing, have gone into the F category in a number of cases, just because they've further gone to the dark side to become sellers of fakes and copies, and it's kind of disappointing to see who a few of them are. I noticed that there's an auction company in Los Angeles that's been around for years, suddenly has gotten very vague about their dating, and are using expressions like 18th century or later, or 19th century or later. And what that means is it looks 18th century, but it's probably a fake. All right, but they don't say it, and it's a little bit disappointing. So check the report card before you place a bid, just to make sure we haven't changed their ratings. Right now, there's about 330 or 40 or so auction houses on that list. Alrighty, now one of the things I wanted to mention was this plate. I talked about it last week just because I thought it was such a pretty example, and it was closing in a couple of days. It closed yesterday, as a matter of fact, and it's been updated and archived over to the paid pages. But this was that really nice 18th century Famille Rose lotus blossom dish that was for sale. I think who was this? Alderfers had this up in Pennsylvania. And in the end, it did pretty well. It brought $1,600 plus the buyer's premium. But it was an absolutely beautiful plate, nice example. And we talked about why it was so good last week, the lack of wear, the very, very good drawing, the very nice deep shading of the enamels and so forth. And it did just fine. All right, not a surprise. A big bowl like this would have brought thousands more, and this was just a plate, but still, it was a very pretty one. All right, and the other thing I wanted to mention was that Christie's has fully posted now their sale. This is their online-only sale, and you'll find it on Live Auctioneers, and you'll find it on their own page, on the member pages. It's a pretty good-looking sale. It runs now through September 3rd. It closes, so you want to check that out. You can either check it out, as I said, on Live Auctioneers or on the Christie's page. It's some very good things, and these are sales with things that are sort of in the buyable range, lower estimates, 500-pound estimates, 400-pound, 2,000-pound estimates. And there's some nice-looking lots in here, as always. If you're a dealer, you want to check out the lots, because sometimes, as we all know, if a lot's got 5 or 10 things in it and you do your own math, you might be able to make a pretty good profit by buying it up and reselling it, provided you can get the stuff shipped reasonably. And we'll take a look at some of the lots that Christie's has posted up on this sale. One of them was this. This was a really lovely little Guan-type crackle glaze stem cup that they came up with. It's got a fairly modest estimate, $1,200 to $1,800. It's got a starting bid of around 1,000 pounds. But this is a really lovely example. I have to say, it's got the double crackle, the gold thread crackle, and the black crackle, sort of that style that was reminiscent of sung pieces. Nice looking foot rim on it, and they did provide some good pictures of the bottom, so you get a sense of what these should look like. Here it is, and this is I think an early 19th century example. They said it's 19th century. I think it's sort of out of the old side. A lot of sellers would put this up as 18th century, obviously, because it's got that nice looking foot on it. But Christie's is pretty confident it's 19th century, and it's a good example. And these aren't terribly big. This is 5 3/8 inches tall, but very nicely glazed. A really pretty glaze. So if you like crackle pieces and you want to add to your collection, this is a gem of a little piece. And it's sort of a rare form. This form does not turn up often in 19th century Guan type crackle wares, and when they do, they're nearly always attributed to the 18th century. All right, and then onto this is a set of 5 Kangxi square form bottles. A lot of these were exported into Europe. They were very popular, and as you can see here, the patterns are all quite similar. Check for condition on them. This one looks like it might have had a little bit of a cut down on it, and this one too. But check it out, because the estimate is pretty reasonable: 5,000 pounds, or $3,700 to $6,000 with an opening bid of $37,000. If you could buy it anywhere near the lower end of that estimate range, I think you might be able to make some money with those. And then this really nice sort of a pair of these Kangxi pear-shaped long neck bottles, very attractive, estimated at 1,500 to 2,500 pounds. I think that's pretty reasonable. That's sort of about the price for one of them, provided they're both in good shape. So always get a condition report, but check that out. And then on to this. This is an interesting pair of vases. These are really fine. Nice pair of Kangxi vases that are in the Christie sale. And they provenance back to Marchant Gallery in London. They've got an old Marchant label on the bottom. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Marchant. I assume a lot of them you are. But if you're not, this is their website. They've been around since 1925. The company was founded by Stuart Marchant. And it's got an extremely great long tradition, great history, great reputation. They handle some absolutely superb pieces. And one little tip, if you want to look things up or you're doing some research, use their website. They have built a very nice website for examining objects. And if you click on anything here, one of the things you want to see more about it, they have they've added a great magnification feature to their page, or to their site, where you can really blow up and pull in all the details of the bottoms of porcelain like this. It's a very good, Marchant's is a very good place to do research on things. They don't always have a huge amount of stuff up online, but what they have is absolutely superb. And their reputation is stellar, so you can rely on the information they provide. But absolutely great detail. They do fabulous photography. Crystal sharp, crystal clear, beautifully done. So check that out. But in any event, back to the pair of vases. These were originally sold by Marchant, and the label looks like one of their older labels from maybe 50, 60 years ago. So check that vase out. It's estimated at 2,500 to 4,000 pounds, which is pretty reasonable for one of those, for a pair like that. These are very attractive. They're about 8 inches or so tall, 5 inches tall, but beautiful enameling. And that's what, with porcelain, that's always what you're paying for, is the quality of the decoration. So and also keep Marchant in mind when you're looking at things and you want to maybe get a shot of the bottom of an authentic piece. Use it, and they have good catalogs that they offer as well. So check it out as you go along. All right, and then back over to the Christie sale is this really nice, another Kangxi pear-shaped vase. Lots of Kangxi wares in this sales. Okay. And this is the live auctioneers page. As you see, we've updated it considerably. Rago has the sale up, some good early things, and there's a bunch of other auction houses. The page is much longer than it was a week ago. A lot of stuff has appeared, and there are a number of sales coming up in September, as I mentioned. And one of the things I noticed in here was this was a sale that Rago's is having down in New Jersey in a couple of weeks on August 26th, a week and a half from now, I guess. Great big pair of Famille Rose vases. So if you live in that area and you're looking for a monster pair of Famille Rose vases, these are 2 feet tall, nice classic type. They do turn up on the market, and they do generally fairly well. But what I liked about it was the very strong coloring on the back of these. I thought this was quite attractive, with the horses in the middle, and then all the figures around them, and this very stylized mountain scene behind them. Thought they were attractive, very decorative, modestly estimated $2,000 to $4,000. They should easily get there, but very good looking. And then over here, this was something else. This is at Handman's, I think. Yeah, Hannum's over in Selborne in the UK is this really nice piece of Shibayama barrel form device, inlaid and overlaid with mother of pearl and coral and all that great stuff. If you're not in England, check out the laws before you go to the bother of buying them. Make sure they're exportable and importable to your country. If you're in the EU, of course, you can pretty much just move them around as you wish. But at any rate, the opening bid is £3,800, but this is a very, very fine one. And I believe they have an attributed to Kodansu is the worker, a Meiji period maker. All right, and then over here, this was something I wanted to mention. You may recall a few weeks ago, there was Marchant in the UK had a sale of some of Brian Page's things. And the sale did very well, as you remember. Brian was a longtime dealer, had a great reputation. He passed away a couple of years ago. His son has taken over the business, but they're selling off some of the things that Brian liked in particular. He had a very interesting, eclectic taste. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that's coming up at Marchant's yet again, part 2 of things from Brian Page, and just some really good early wares. And one of the things I really liked a lot was that he was sort of a fan of this kind of stuff. These are Sung Dynasty sagers that have the bowls stuck on the bottom. Often what would happen is during the firing there'd be a problem, and the piece would warp, get distorted, and when they were done they couldn't get the piece out, and they threw these in the waste area behind the kilns. And a lot of the kilns have been excavated over the years, and these pieces have been pulled up, and collectors love them. And this is a pretty rare one. This is a cup stand, Sung Dynasty cup stand, and if it were not in that sagar and in beautiful shape, it would be worth a lot of money. But if you're never going to be in the position to buy one of these for $30,000 or $40,000 or $50,000, this is a chance to buy a sagar with it. Is a great example. If you're really a fan of pottery and porcelain, these are cool. These are great, and it's got this very nice original stand in it, and there's the side walls of the sagar. And the sagar is remarkably complete. A lot of the times you only see half of them. They've been broken to bits. It has a chunk out of it, but that's about it. And it's an interesting thing. It's a very rustic sort of clay that they used. The estimate is 250 to 350 euros, and I think that's well within range. All right, and also this very nice dark green glazed Hu form Han Dynasty pot. There's a number of these in here. It's been tested at Oxford, so it's it's okay, and a beautiful, beautiful piece. And then moving along over to here. Oh, here's the sagar again. And then down at, this is Rago has this, a very nice Chinese Amari jar, Kangxi period. It doesn't have the lid, but boy, it's a pretty example and nicely done. And the gilding looks like it's in good shape. And it's estimated fairly reasonably, $600 to $800, and it is 14 inches tall. Nice big pot, and as you know, if this pot's in good shape, it's an absolute steal at $800. It ought to bring double that. But check it out if you're looking around for Kangxi pieces, or you're a dealer. This could be an opportunity. But as I said, always get a condition report. And one of the things I wanted to mention about the Brian Page sale was that there were 2 lots that are in the sale that had been in there before. Wait a minute, let me get back to it. Hold on a second here. I want to get down to this. The Blanc de Chine incense burners that were in the original sale, 2 of them for some reason didn't get paid for. I don't know why. Some idiot bought them and didn't pay for them. God, it's annoying, isn't it? And there they are, this one and this one. You may remember them. I thought they were great, and I thought they sold for a perfectly reasonable price. They're being resold. He's got a note in there saying that the bidder was a fake bidder, which is very annoying. But check those out again. If you liked them last time, they're still the same ones. Like them again. All righty. And now heading over to what's happening over on, that's the Invaluable page. It's all updated. Over to the newsletter from last week. There were some pretty good prices on for things that sold that we had posted on the page. A couple of little surprises. And as always, there were some pretty good buys. All right, and we're going to hop along and get started. One of them was this. You may recall, I talked about this. I thought, boy, if you could pick this up reasonably, it would make an absolutely great table lamp. It had been a table lamp once before. Those of you that have collected these know that this form of vases, often in pairs especially, they were made into table lamps back in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. And this one had been a lamp. And somebody picked it up for $188, which I think is a great buy. All right, so if you got it, knock yourself out. Have a beautiful lamp. All right, and then on to this. This is that very nice transitional period, rather unusual form vase with a high foot, but very nice decoration, very delicately decorated, especially the way, if you notice, the way these bamboo trees were done around the back. And the seller did an excellent job with the photography. He didn't set it up in a studio. It's not necessary. But what he did do that was very smart was he shot it in nice natural light outside. This one, he looked like he laid down in his garden. But you can truly see the piece. You can truly see the facial expressions. You get a very good sense of the outlining, how this piece was decorated all the way around. Lots of good pictures. Here's a very nice shot of the bottom of it for those of you that really, really want to see what the bottoms of these look like. That's a great shot. And another shot from the angle, and you can see how it's very old, smooth, polished, from just natural wear. And there you can see the high unglazed foot, typical of transitional pieces. Just a really nice example, and there's more of that very good decoration up the side. And everybody liked this quite a bit, and it ended up selling for $2,930. And I don't think that's an overpayment at all. I think that's a very lovely piece. Really do. Nice looking vase, if you like transitional wares. And then there was this really pretty Yongchen to Qianlong period Famille Rose enameled plate. And what I liked about this in particular, well, there were a couple of things I liked. One was how the decoration, they used the very dense rose enamels around the interior, and then you have this sort of fish roe decoration just outside of it with these very nicely done cartouches with lotus blossoms in it. And notice the quality of the Famille Rose enamels on this. Very deep and dark, the way they sort of glow and then fade out to the edges where they turn white. Beautifully done. And here's a picture of the back of it. There's the foot rim. That's exactly the foot rim you want to see. The foot rims on some of these almost look like Kangxi foot rims. They're not Kangxi, obviously, but they're very, very similar. And the seller did a good job with the pictures here, but nice sharp enamels, and just a pretty plate. And it ended up selling for $432, which I think is well deserved. It was a good example, and this was a seller over in the UK that had this. Alrighty, and then mosey along over to this. I think this was a great buy. This was, I think, a very good Qing Dynasty bronze, but very nicely done. I think it had a little bump in it or something, which can be tapped out pretty easily. Where is it? Right there. If those people that handle a lot of these bronzes will tell you that they can heat this up very gently. Nice big mouth. Get in there and they can smooth that right out from the inside. You won't even know it was dented. It's just like pushing out. It's like pushing out the dent in a car with a toilet plunger. Anyway, it's a nice looking bronze. Nice crisp decoration. This relief work around the top. It's a Qing Dynasty example. And somebody picked it up, I think, for a very fair price. $361. That was a good buy. That was a really nice buy. It had good patina. It hadn't been polished out in the 1920s the way a lot of them were, and it still has its nice old surface. A good looking thing. And then on to this, some of these Kosametsuki dishes. This was a really unusual one. These are from Shangri-La, those sellers over in the Netherlands. We keep an eye on. They get some good things. This was a beautiful early plate, and it was in wonderful condition. The condition of this was exceptional, and the border decoration on it is highly unusual, very attractive, and it ended up selling, I think, very reasonably, $382. All right, for this example. They sell on eBay under the username The Ceramics and Collectibles, but on the internet you can find them under Shangri-La. Alrighty, and they also had this spotted deer and pine tree dish, also early Kosametsuki with this foliate rim, nice condition, only minor bits of fritting around the edge, and this one did very well. It brought $617, which was a strong price, but it was in great condition. In condition on these transitional pieces that were meant for the Japanese market. Often are not in good shape and they don't bring much, but this is a very nice one and did very well. All right, and then over to this, that Famille Rose plate that we looked at a few minutes ago. Here was a saucer that had very, very similar color palette. I thought I'd just throw it in. Much smaller. This was just a little saucer, small dish. It was just a few inches wide, and somebody picked it up for $85. Not bad. All right, so if you can't spend $400 or $500 on a big one, you can still own a nice example for under $100. And this was over in the UK, and the shipping was reasonable. And it is 11 centimeters in diameter for a little over 4.5, 5 inches wide. But perfectly nice example, and isn't going to break anybody's budget. All right, and then on to this was the rose water, the Kangxi rose water bottle. It's rose sprinkler. A lot of these were made for export into Southeast Asia and into India and these places, and a number of them also made it, of course, to Europe as trade goods. But this is the bottom of it, pretty typical of these. Here's another shot of it, that nice deep dark cobalt, nicely turned and so forth, and ended up selling for $757, which I think was fine. Good looking piece of porcelain. And then over here was the Wan Li charger. This was a really nice charger. This was over on Catawiki. It was a good example because the cobalt decoration, here's a picture of the back of it. It's how one of these should look. Often you see the little chatter marks and turning lines going out to the foot rim. Sort of a messed up looking foot at times on these. But what was nice about this was that the decoration on the inside was really well done. Very tight outlining, very nicely filled in. Because as you know, Wan Li plates can vary enormously in quality. And this was a better than average one. Much better than average. And you notice that the glaze is pretty clean. There's not too much pitting, just a few here and there. And as I said, the shading was excellent on this plate. And some people really chased this thing up for a while, and it ended up selling for 1,200 euros, which isn't bad. Which isn't bad at all. This was 37 centimeters in diameter, or 36 centimeters, 36.8 centimeters in diameter, so about 14, 15 inches wide. Nice looking piece of porcelain, and it was in nice condition on top of it, which often, as you know, again, Wan Li pieces, like the export pieces to Japan and all that sort of stuff, often condition is a big problem with them, but this one turned out to be in pretty good shape. And then over here, this was that nice little silver can that was dated, that was being sold by the sellers down in North Carolina. A super shrink, ended up selling for $435, dated 1890. I think this was a pretty good buy. And what may have held it back was that it might not have attracted as much attention as it should have, because at a glance, this looks fairly contemporary if you really look at it. Whoever did this had a very, very sort of forward-thinking mindset when it comes to silver design. Beautifully done, but almost deco. But it wasn't. It was dated. It was signed and dated to an earlier period and went for $435. Terrific buy. And then on to this. We featured this over the weekend. Was this nice looking Kangxi jar with a later lid and a later base. Always ignore the bases and lids when you're trying to figure out how old these are, because they were often paired up, especially when they got to Europe. They'd pair them up with stands that they'd been shipped and covers and so forth just to finish them up, and that people still do that. But there's the foot rim on it. Nice looking old pot, and ended up selling for $1,618. And this was probably one of a pair originally. These were typically made in pairs, and a lot of them were exported to the West from China. And this is something else. I just threw this in here. This was a nice looking signed Taisho period Tetsube, iron Tetsube. And as I said a couple of weeks ago, we had one on here that went very reasonably. I think it was a copper gilt splashed example, $85, $100. Tetsubes are one of the great bargains of Japanese art on the market. I love the things. Years ago, people had collections of them. I saw a collection of these once in the Boston area, and I think the guy had about 400 of them. And it was a fascinating collection, and the collection was started by his grandfather back early part of the century, and then he continued it. But at any rate, this was a nice example with relief work, bamboo trees and figures, signature, rusted out interiors they often have, and so forth, seal marked on the bottom, and the bottom of the lid. And these pieces, as you know, are always shaped like this with that dimpled base from being cast. And it went for just 130 euros. Great buy. Nice looking thing for 130 euros. Like I've said a million times, Japanese stuff, if you enjoy Asian art and Asian taste and so forth in general, you find some absolutely, as far as quality goes, some absolute fabulous bargains in the Japanese markets. You really do on Japanese objects. So always remember that if you're sort of wading into it, and you don't encounter the fakes as much as you do with the Chinese things. And then over here, these are some things that'll be in the newsletter this week. If you haven't subscribed to it yet, please do. On the Bidamount site, this is a very, very nice transitional period jar with a dragon on it. It's doing pretty well. It's already got 19 bids. It closes in 6 days. And it's up to $2,160. I suspect it'll probably bring 4,000 or 5,000, but it's a nice early example. And it's got this great big palm tree on the back. And for some reason, these jars with the big palm trees on them, and then the creature on the other side, like this, they do well. There was one somewhat similar to it that was up at auction a few weeks ago. I think it brought $5,500. All right, now over here to this. This is a nice little, he has it dated as 18th century. I'm not so certain it is. I think maybe it's a early 19th century example, but very nice red brush washer. It's got an old label on the back of it, an unglazed bottom, of course, and he's got a good shot of the interior and so forth with its lid and base, all right? Nice looking little brush washer. He says 18th century. I'm not saying he's being at all dishonest about it. It's just I don't agree that it maybe not be quite that. Assume it might have been made around 1820 or so. At any rate, it's up to $864 because it's a nice scholar's object, and we'll see how it does. This is a seller over in the UK, Nafiza. He sells a lot of stuff on eBay. And then over here to this is Woolworths down in Rhode Island. It's a local dealer, auctioneer. He handles a lot of estates. And this is a rather nice Republic period, late Republic period jar with roosters on it. Beautiful looking thing, nice handles, turquoise mouth. It had been drilled as a lamp, but nice looking old late Republic example, and based on a sort of a chin-lung form and decoration, but very nicely done, nicely shaded pink flowers. The details on this were good. And then you have the gilded area with this Millefiori floral background. Quite a nice thing. It's just up to $212. It got listed a couple of days ago. It'll be in the newsletter, and expect that to probably bring $800 to $1,200 or somewhere in there. But it's a pretty one. And they also put up a couple of these very nice Fitzhugh porcelain tureens with strawberry finials on them. They have a couple of those up. This is Woolworths again. They must have gotten some house calls. And then this is sort of a nifty thing. The seller has it listed as 19th to 20th century. I don't know the seller. I think they're in Canada. This looks like maybe their first eBay listing, but the photography was pretty good. He says he got somebody to help him with the photography and the listing. Here's a picture of the bottom of it. All right, here's a better shot of the base. And he's very conservatively dated this as 19th to 20th century. I think it's pretty clearly a 19th century example and probably early 19th century. From what I can see, I don't see this as a 20th century piece. I like the glaze on it. I like the shape of it. And I love the inside, the way it was glazed. And I like that foot. Very clean paste, not a lot of impurities. Not the typical type of paste you see on late 19th and early 20th century pieces. And the turquoise is nice and thin. It washed over nice and thin on it. At any rate, it's got one bid. It's at $9.99 Canadian, so about $7. If you like brush washers and scholars objects, you want to check that out. I think that's a gem of a little object, and I think it should do pretty well. But you may be able to steal it for under $500 or so. All right, and then on to this. This closes in a day or so over on Catawiki. Is this very nice Kangxi period inscribed Klapmutz bowl. Very nice looking. It looks like it's got a Ming mark on the bottom. Probably Chenhua or something. Yeah, Chenhua mark. But it's up to $1,198. But it's a nice example. Nice looking bowl. Nice white glaze, nice cobalt, and I like the rim on it. It's a sort of an exaggeration of the typical rim, quite attractive. And here's the inscription on the back. So check that out. It ends Sunday. Okay, it's up to 1,198 euros. So you're looking at probably I would expect it to bring $1,800 to $2,500 anyway, U.S. But a good-looking bowl. Check the condition and go from there. All right. So there's a lot happening, and we're keeping an eye out. There's some sales. The big auction houses have some big sales right now, tentatively slated for later in September. I have no doubt that they'll go through with them. We'll hit and learn more about Asia Week that's supposed to maybe coming up, see how they're going to handle that this year. There's so much going on. And that's it for this week. If you haven't subscribed to us yet on YouTube, please do. And we do these videos every week. And if you haven't visited us over at Bidamount.com yet, please do. And those of you that are wondering, yes, we're working on the new auction and sales site, and we've zeroed in on the theme, and it's coming along. And hopefully in the next 2 weeks, we'll put up some dummies and sort of share how it's going to look and some of the ideas we have behind it. But we had I probably had 15 or 20 calls this week from folks wanting to know more about it, and it's hopefully going to be something everybody likes. Okay. All right. Have a wonderful weekend and enjoy one of your summers winding down. Labor Day is just a couple of weekends off. Hard to believe. And have a wonderful time. And we'll see you all next week, and we'll keep you updated and so forth. All righty. Thanks so much. Bye-bye. Mm-hmm.